Hey everyone, this is Rushlock, and today's video is about did the Doctor Who crossover event help EVE Online? The first thing we're going to look at is the social media presence for Doctor Who and how it interacted with EVE Online. There were, from what I saw, about 2 posts for the duration of the event. The most recent happening on the 28th, regarding their own fandom and directing them to EVE Online. This would be the single most effective way for EVE Online to gain new users. Of course, CCP was a lot more aggressive on their end, letting their user base know about this event and making them aware because they can control that directly. But the bigger impact will definitely come from if Doctor Who fans from their own social media platforms interacted with what was being posted and shared. The event was about 2.5 weeks long, so Doctor Who posting twice about it, at least on their Twitter, and from what I saw, their Twitter is very similar to their Facebook presence. It doesn't seem like they oversaturated it. That's certainly not the case. Could they have fit one more post in there? Probably. Is there a number where it gets too much and it would just be too spammy? Of course. Should they have been posting about it every 3 days? Probably not. But yeah, for some reason to me, two posts over 2.5 weeks seems a little underwhelming. Keep in mind that perspective-wise, that could be way off in terms of online marketing. The agreement between the CCP and BBC, we have no idea how that details went. There may have been no obligation on BBC's part to advertise at all, which means, if the obligation is 0 and you get 2, that's a pretty good return on a 0 investment. By comparison, you look at the EVE Online social media account for Twitter, and their banner is Doctor Who themed. We'll do a quick skimming scan here. 1, 2, kind of the Whovian Proving Grounds. 2, 3, that's a retweets. We'll skip it. Let's keep on going. Uh-oh, here we go. That's a retweet. This is actually a promoted stream. So CCP recently has been paying streamers who don't normally broadcast EVE Online content. They've been paying them money to do so. And this is one of those broadcasters posting about their own stream and the upcoming event for the Doctor Who. I shouldn't say upcoming, but their upcoming stream about the ongoing event for Doctor Who. And this is CCP EVE Online's Twitter accounts spreading the word on that. We'll keep going here. A Dalek, they are posting about here. Oh, yeah, this is the interview about the event they had done. I forgot about that one. Abyssal had anything to do with it. We're on the 20th now. Remember, the event started on the 13th, so this is CCP retweeting a CCP Games. Yeah, this is EVE Online retweeting CCP. 19th, another post. Anyway, you get the idea. They've been posting a lot, and that's understandable because they can control that. It's in-house. And it's not so much of a downside, it's more of a remember that they're posting to their own audience about things happening within their own product. Using hashtags and ats and things like that, of course, will draw in some other visibility, but nothing will be more effective than Doctor Who's own social media platforms. So we'll get into the EVE Offline numbers here. And you can, if you're not familiar with this website, you can change the metrics and how you want to perceive data. The data itself doesn't change, but the way it's represented does. So if you're going to look at the last 36 hours, 1 week, 2 week, it wouldn't be very effective in showing the information we're looking for here. At a quick glance, you can see, 2 weeks ago with the event having just started versus the end of the event, traffic had fallen off. But if we look at the 3-month number, we see a slight uptick, but it could also be argued that we just came out of the holiday season. So if we go back to 6 months, we can see an overall uptick, of course. Again, remember the holiday season just occurred. And before that, what was going on? When did the war end? Login number saw a small bump in, let's see what this month is. December of last year. This is still a 6 month, right? Yeah. So this is still relatively recent. Right before the holiday, ramp up, and then people are going to AFK for a couple of days at least. This is the Christmas break. You can see the number logging off. Something else you can look at this number or this chart for is you can see about 20,000 people on average daily at various points of the day will boot up EVE Online and basically just leave it running from downtime to downtime. If we go to the year to year, I don't think the 1 year view really helps us here. It shows a dip, of course. And then it shows us the Doctor Who event spike. But if we go to the 5-year numbers, what people really want to see is because they like to compare, how great things were at some point in the past, and they look at how things are today. There's a lot of different variables that impact that, but you can see the big slump here for the summertime, then the resurgence and uptick after the summertime ends. Doctor Who has a little bit of a spike there. But the big thing, too, is what was going to help EVE Online the most, and that's going to be new players, acquisition of new users. So if we come down here, we see the past 2 days, past week, past month. Let's look at the past 3 months, okay? And we see a definite uptick on the 16th. This would have been the weekend of the event starting on the 13th. So it launched on Thursday the 13th, so 14 would have been Friday. Sunday would have been the 16th. That's when the most new accounts got made, it would seem. A lot of times people will forget when you're super active in EVE Online, and most of the people who listen to a video like this are at least logging in once a week. So you're probably somewhat invested in the game. But a very large number of people only get to play on the weekends, and maybe Sundays is a real slow day, and it's their downtime in their life to be able to have free time to do things like this. So seeing the uptick there is not very surprising. You can see the past 6 months, you can see the past year. So something that stood out to me is, yes, there's an uptick for the Doctor Who event, but what was going on here? Why did we see such a massive spike back in September? And while I'm not entirely sure, I did think about CCP did do a good number of paid promotions. So we discussed that when we looked at the Twitter feed for EVE Online, where CCP has gone out headhunting and looking for broadcasters with established audiences, and offered them, money to play their game on stream. Some people who are less initiated or less familiar with how sponsorship works and how significant having presence on platforms like YouTube or Twitch and things like that. You're probably not listening to a video on YouTube talking about this if that's the case, but there are a lot of people out there that would just simply not comprehend that. Like, why would they ever do that? And the simple answer is, the oversimplified answer is, they're looking for new eyes. They're looking for eyes that are not normally on their product. And you can see a nice spike here, but the spike kind of correlates to this part of the chart, and that's a pretty significant bump in new accounts being used. But what we don't see is correlation to, let's look at the exact dates here. September 25th. Let's go back up to the 6-month chart if we can. Do we see an uptick in, we said September, I believe? This is the beginning of the year, sorry. October, September, here we go, 25th. Yeah, it does correlate. Average numbers had gone up a little bit during those paid promotions, but did it stick, right? Did it have a long-term effect? It doesn't seem so. It seemed those either fell back off. I guess we have to look at before that, right? Was it peaking over 30K very often? It was flirting with it. It was barely touching it. It spiked past it a couple of months in a row, and then it fell back down again until around November. I can't remember if there's another batch of paid promotions. There have been multiple waves of these paid promotions going through. And while this video is about, how did the Doctor Who event impact metrics, it's also about metrics. And in my experience, watching sponsorships happen on Twitch for the past several years, these paid sponsorships are great opportunities to put new eyes on your product, but they typically do absolutely nothing for increasing your overall user base size. I don't want to say long-term, because long-term makes it sound like, years, but even long-term in terms of like 3 months. Like, you're not going to get any traction or any relevant traction on new users sticking to your product, typically. Now, if someone did a paid sponsorship and that person genuinely got into the product and thought, oh man, either I never knew EVE Online was this fun or enjoyable, or I forgot. I've seen a lot of these sponsorship streams or sponsored streams discuss, like, oh, I've played EVE before, and they tell you a story why they didn't play anymore. Which to me is also an interesting way to, the first wave of paid sponsorships that went out. I remember watching a stream, I can't remember the name of the channel, but the person had talked about, yeah, I used to play EVE, and they spent the next 10 minutes talking about all the reasons they quit. I'm like, yeah, the CCP paid for this. This is amazing. But yeah, that's just the way paid sponsorships are going to work. They're a great way to bursty one time, get new eyes on your product. The stick rate is not very good, but it comes back to the question: is it worth it? Not just the paid sponsorships, but even the Doctor Who event. There was no money exchanged hands for the deal between CCP and BBC, so the cost was dev time. Fozzie, on interviews, who is the head of the events team at CCP for EVE Online, has specified this is something that's been on the back burner for the past year. BBC approached CCP. It was a low priority thing for them to get done. A lot of the assets are reused, and so you had a lot of screechy players at the beginning of all this, crying, why was this done instead of an insert thing that they actually care about, and feel like that the Doctor Who event happened at the cost of it, and that's simply not true. But you can't tell someone who's irrationally angry anything, so there's no reason to even try. So I do believe that CCP's cost in this was relatively low, and they got something out of it, for sure. I think, if anything, they got good metrics. The thing they got of value, I think, is the metrics on the event interaction. Mechanically, structure-wise, I think this has been one of the most successful and engaging events they've ever had. The reason being is I'm making clicks I normally never make. In what is this, 2022, in 13 years of interacting with Eve, I have never interacted with the industry tab on a daily basis, ever. Not even on a weekly or even a monthly basis. I simply don't interact with it. And during this event, I've been interacting with that user interface. Yes, I did predominantly hacking, obviously, but I enjoy the hacking minigame because it allows me to have something to do in-game while talking to Twitch chat. I don't think it's necessary that it all be instanced all the time. I think it was the right choice to make when you had potentially a lot of new first-time players coming into the game. So when I say the mechanically the event was very, very well done, I hope that elements of it persist in the future events. I don't mean that they can't use instance content or they must, just that it was understandable why in this context that they chose to do so. But yeah, looking at the metrics, this video is about, was it worth it? We'll never know, because we don't know what CCP's expectations were, or the bar they were trying to hit, or even if there was a bar. They may not approach this project from that perspective. And I say we never know. Fozzie and others could end up doing an interview on a platform sometime in the near future, and maybe we'll get more enlightenment. Maybe I'll even put a request in the partnership program to get such an interview. But yeah, I think that'd be an interesting topic to find out more about. But hopefully you watch this video on 2x speed. If you aren't, try it out down in the bottom right corner on YouTube channels. There's a cogwheel. Go into settings. You can bump videos up to whatever speed you want to watch them at, so you can get past the babble a lot more quickly. Save some time in your day. But thank you for checking out the video, and we'll see you next time.